from Lithuania.
Hello.
Ondřej from Czech Republic.
Hello.
Luukas from Estonia.
Hello.
And Ossian from Ireland.
Hi, Janusz. Hi.
Each one of them is a digital minister from Europe. So, eID, something that the European Union has been working on for a long time, but despite the fact that the final solution is not there, I would like to know what are the solutions that are actually online and working in your countries. What is your experience with eID, and what do you think are the best practices that you could share with the audience? So I'd like to start with Eglė.
Thank you so much. Currently at the Lithuanian Parliament, the Parliament is voting on the amendment to the law which will change the policy formation system in Lithuania regarding eID. I hope that it goes well and my ministry becomes the one who's centralizing or monopolizing, if you will, the policy formation issues of eID. When it comes to eID and the things that Lithuania has already done, I would say since 2014 we've already implemented most of eID. We have our personal identification card, which is our main tool in Lithuania. It works well, but at the same time in Lithuania we have a very strong private sector tools, which is good. They are very popular among the people, among the society, but as the saying goes, you shouldn't keep all of your eggs in one basket. Therefore, for us as a country, it's important to strengthen our public sector's tools and ensure that they're user-friendly, they're secure, easy to use for the citizens. Of course, the citizens or the people themselves do not question which tool is better for them. They want to use it very easily and without questioning too much who's the owner of that. But as a state, we have to think a little deeper, a little more broad, and ensure that our public sector is as strong as well, just in case unplanned things or unplanned events occur. We have to something to rely on in the public sector.
Thank you. How about you, Ondřej?
We have a mobile key application. It's allowed all the citizens to log in the government services. And I think it's pretty easy to use. You just scan a QR code with your mobile phone and you are in Portal of Citizen and these kind of services. And we have identity by the eID standard and it's federated to the banking identities. So it's pretty easy to all citizens create its own digital identity and log in for first time, because of course you have to visit some place and use physical physical ID, sorry. But if you use a bank it's pretty easy.
Thank you. How about you, Luukas?
Thank you, Janusz. So Estonia, we just celebrated the 20th anniversary of our eID, and what's incredible is that even 20 years later, we still see the uptick in the usage growing. So Estonians today give several 100 million digital signatures a year for a country of 1.3 million. And so I think one thing that we tell the world is whatever full penetration of eID is, not in terms of everyone using it, but also really using it consistently, no one knows what saturation is. We're still seeing incredible growth. And what I think for us is really valuable is that we have one identity that's used across the country, public sector, private sector, it's secure. It also, by virtue of linking the identity that you have in various places with various government agencies and the private sector together gives people a lot more transparency on how their data is used, a lot more sovereignty over their personal data, and the ability to sort of use services that combine public and private sector. In terms of what we're working on now, so one thing I mentioned, it's the ability to move personal data between public and private sector to bring private data into government services and vice versa. When I just applied for a home loan, and I had the tax authority forward my information to the bank instead of having to upload a bunch of forms. And then there are two other things. The first one that I have now the demo of on my phone, or not the demo, but the sort of the first test version is that we have copied the Ukrainian DIA application, and we're making an Estonian version that allows me finally to dematerialize the identity. So I don't have to carry the piece of plastic around, and instead I can just show the phone. And the other thing is I want this to work everywhere in the world. I want to be able to do business in Poland, and use that identifier and use the credentials I have. I want to be able to show my mobile driver's license in the south of Spain when I'm renting a car instead of having to carry plastic. And I know this is what we're about to talk about, and that's where we're going. And I think that's really my dream, is that all of our eIDs really work together.
Okay, so Estonian eID, old but gold. Yes? Ossian, how about you?
Hey, hi. I'm in Ireland, and in Ireland, I suppose 80% of adults have eID now. It is very widespread and very popular. So whenever we put new services on, people can see that they're saving time, that they don't have to go to an office, take a ticket, queue up. So it's unusual for politicians to be launching things that are constantly popular, and I feel lucky to have that portfolio, right? Where we need to go next, although we have a lot of people who have eID, we don't have enough services that are available online. So we have all our taxes and welfare payments. You can renew your passport and your driver's license and so on. But we need to do our healthcare. Our whole of our healthcare really needs to move online. So that's my focus at the moment. And we do need to do an app now. As you said, Luukas, just having your mobile phone should be enough to transact business. I'm very impressed with what you have, Janusz, showing me yesterday, that it is something that can happen from person to person. So it's not always about dealing with a big corporation or the government. It can be two people selling a car to each other or something like this. And there's this idea that it's an electronic ID. It lets you have more privacy because you can restrict how much information you share with each person. Instead of in the traditional system where you're sending in bank statements and copies of your passport and far too much information you have to share. So I think that that this is going to be a benefit for the public, less sharing of unnecessary information.
Thank you. Half of my panelists have answered the second question already, so I'll have to think of a third one. So the question is, we see a lot of services being launched, different countries, they go with different strategies, but if there was one service that you think could be a cross-border service that should be available to all Europeans, and commonly accepted, commonly issued, what would that be? Eglė.
That's a good question. Are we talking about digital?
Yes, digital.
Of course. Well, I think when it comes to eID specifically, since I have not presented my position earlier, I think the interoperability is a challenge in itself. And with the first eID, we've seen our set of challenges in Lithuania, and we still have issues to solve with certain countries. So I think that's one task to solve, and if we do that, a lot of issues for the citizens vanish. But at the same time, simple, easy UX, safety, interoperability with other countries, as well as the opportunity to use alternative, safe eID tools and measures is very important. As I said before, if something bad happens, the people, the citizens, need to have an alternative to use, and that's the most important thing.
Thank you. Ondřej, how about you?
I don't think there is just one service that is most important, because I found that it's about all the service together. It's about the mass of service, because no one really want a service from the state. They want just normal living and using of word. But if I have to name some services, I think one of the important is health records, and of course the prescription, and another is of course the taxes. If you work in 2 or 3 states, you need to fill the taxes, and it's annoying. So I think this is the services which really European need to be interoperable.
Okay, Luukas, how about you?
I'm going to cheat.
Well,
I'm going to name
that.
20.
Oh
I'm
my
not going to
God.
list them all. No, but look, we have this very unpleasant mouthful called the single digital gateway, whatever that means, right? But what it actually means is that we have 20 cross-border services that, legally speaking, have been standardized in Europe. Our digital government agencies and parts of government are working to build this out right now. Things like medical records, prescriptions, with the new digital wallet, driver's licenses. So a lot of this is already, the legislative work's been done. The hard part, and this is true for every country that's done eID, it's not building it, it's getting people to use it. So the trick we're going to now have with the stuff we've already agreed to do is, do we actually start using it? Do we have the marketing that gets people to be aware that they have this possibility? Or are we going to, in 5 years, complain that, well, we built it and no one used it? We've had interoperability of, for instance, our eID with Portugal for a decade. Not terribly many, there's some, but not that many Estonians and Portuguese people go back and forth. So, we need to just, not just build it, but make sure it gets used. And I think my dream is that the stuff that we've already agreed to do really has that impact. And I think then people will see their lives get a lot easier.
Okay, Ossian, how about you?
Okay, I think we should be optimistic about being able to have digital services that work in every European country. It sounds impossible, but we did do it with a digital COVID certificate. I went into a bar in your country, and I was able to hand over a piece of paper or a QR code and get a beer. So it can actually work. And if you can do that, then you can get prescription drugs.
But with a smile like that, they might have let you in, even if it didn't work.
Well, if you could get your prescription drugs, that's a benefit. If you can drive, if you can hire a car and you don't have to bring your plastic driver's license with you, and if people are getting used to not having the plastic card, and they're always using their phone and they're told, okay, you can just use that in the other country and you don't have to risk your license, then I think that those 2 things, if you had to say 2 things, I'd say prescription drugs and driver's licenses should be interoperable, and there should be a good reason to use them.
Yeah, so the European beer pass that you used, okay. So we're an unusual bunch of ministers because we only used up half the time. That's okay. Ondřej, you want to add something?
Maybe one extension to my answer. I think there is not just the European interoperability, but we need to extend it to Ossian, to US and Canada, and this, because of course we have movement of people and they have needs and needs of services. So I think this is another good question and riddle to solve.
Okay, so we'll do a bonus round. Do you think that there is a different? Do you think that we should focus only on mobile apps, or you think that there's room for mobile and web still in 2023 and the years to come? Eglė.
I would love to answer app only, but looking at the digital divides within many countries, including mine, the conclusion is that we can't refuse web, and we have to improve web as well. In Lithuania, I think it's 99.8% of relatively young people from 18 to 40 who use internet and e-services. When it comes to people of older generation, the number reduces drastically. So for them, I think the more traditional ways is the way to go.
So I have an interesting stat about this. So the most digital public servant in Poland is Professor Gertruda Uścińska. She's the head of the Polish Social Security Authority, and she turned everything there digital. And from January, actually, the pensioner's ID is digital by default. You can apply for a plastic one. The results so far are that there are more electronic pensioner IDs than we have university and school students combined. And that was online for a few years now. So, and of course, this is a service which is basically 60 plus years old. So that's an interesting stat, and I was super worried. How's it going to go? Haven't heard even one complaint so far. The only complaint we've had was from pensioners from the military and police who said, hey, our pension authority doesn't give out these electronic pensioners' IDs. So, Ondřej, app or web, or both?
Both. We have a law to this in Czech Republic that you have right to use traditional way, and I think it's okay because you always have some vulnerable groups, and I discussed this with colleagues from Denmark, and they say that they have 10% of people that are not digitalized, and they cannot break this barrier. So you have some people in population, and you have to secure them too.
Okay, it will be a surprise for everyone that I'll ask now Luukas.
Well, I want to direct the question a little bit, because I think that question's 10 years old. You know, we've had this around for 15 years.
And how old is your government app?
My government app is a baby it's being born right now, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, I mean, how much longer is this going to be the main UX? ChatGPT, you know, we don't know what device large learning models are going to be on, if it's on this device, or if really brings in the era of smartphones, or if we start implanting chips. But I think the big challenge for government is how are we ready? How do we get to the next UX paradigm a little bit faster than we did with mobile? I will say, between mobile and browsers, just on vulnerable populations, I think the vulnerable, you know, there's always going to be a group that is truly not digital. But between app and mobile, the odds are that your vulnerable population are going to have this and not a desktop computer. And that includes both the old people, because grandma has an iPad, not, you know, an iMac. And it also includes another group of, not vulnerable, but underserved populations when it comes to e-government services, which is youth. You know, every country I know that does the numbers, they have a lower usage rate of e-services in 18 to 25-year-olds than with their middle-aged people. And that makes sense, because what do you talk to the government for? To pay your taxes, to do banking, to apply for permits, you know? That's something you do when you're in middle age a lot. But that means that we actually have a real problem. You know, the biggest proportion of people calling our help center to say, help, I don't understand this government service, is young people. And we have to teach them how to use it, because the design paradigms are designed for my age, for Ossian's age, and not for, you know, my generation. What comes after Gen Z? Whatever.
Back to
kids. Yeah.
Okay, Ossian, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with Luukas. I don't think it's a choice between two platforms. I think that it's whatever is the technology of the time, and I may not even know what a 17-year-old is using. So it should be completely independent. It may be an Alexa or something, or whatever I'm using. And we also have to think about how digital identity is not just about me providing my profile credentials to you and providing that much information. It's also about me proving that I am a human being. And you know, on these websites where it says, you know, are you a robot? I had an interaction the other evening where I was dealing with a big company on a chatbot, and I couldn't tell if the person was robot or not. I mean, I did ask. I said, are you a robot? And they said yes. But I still, at the end of it, you know, 5 minutes later, I wasn't 100% sure. And they're getting good at laughing and, you know, everything else. So just being able to prove that you are human is a function of an eID. And even if it only reveals about the person, their initials or their date of birth, but the government is saying that this person who's operating this is human. And that's actually useful with the threat from AI through, for example, these influence attacks and bots and so on. If I know that everybody on the social network is a verified human being from a European country, that's very, very valuable to me, even if I don't know who they actually are. So I think it's going to be a big operation of eID, is actually just determining that people are human beings. against AI.
If they have a blue check mark, it must be true.
Yeah, Janusz, you see me nodding violently, and it's because I think that AI is going to be the thing the tipping point that pushes every country in the world to figure out at least that level of, that threshold of eID, I wish that France and Germany and America would really have unique identifiers, but they're going to have to at least, have a way to do the is human check, because otherwise every form of trust is going to break down. The cybercrime and the fraud we have now is going to 10x overnight, and the is human check is going to be really crucial.
Okay, so this is the only question that I'll say what my position is. So I think that looking at Poland, maybe in different countries, different situations, I think we have to start just cutting off legacy systems that are served using web services. I mean, I fully agree that there has to be something for the people that are not digital, they don't want to do digital. There has to be a government office where you can go and you can do things and interact with your government. I don't think it's good to cut people off and say, you're not online, then you're like half a citizen. That's not good. And it's going to cause unrest throughout the population. But I think when we look at the constraints that we have doing our jobs as digital ministers, I think, you never have enough money and you're buying really expensive stuff most of the time. And and also a lot of times you make really bad compromises. And I think making decisions like, hey, so we're just going to do the app, and from 2025 we say everything should be done through an app. Because the things that you guys mentioned, the fact that it can confirm that I'm human, the fact that it is probably by design a lot more secure than a web interface, because you have it. I mean, if I left my keys at home, I wouldn't remember. If I left my phone, I would be back in 5 minutes. So I think that because of that, I'm supporting within my government a big switch towards mobile only, and also because it gives you the opportunity to implement mobile solutions in the administration itself. And they can be, in my opinion, very useful. For instance, you have people that do work in the field. If you have an app, you just do a picture, it's documented, you have a location, short description, and this is the way to turn paperless. And if you have to go back into your office and type something in the computer, it's never going to be as useful. And so we've actually, one of the features that I was telling about yesterday was for people to be able to report environmental infringements. So someone throwing out the trash in the wild or whatever. So the possibility to just make a picture, location, and short description, it's a whole different number of people that are actually interested in reporting all this. So yeah, that's my view on this. If anyone else would care to comment, we have 1 minute.
We're shutting down a service we've had for a long time, giving people a universal forwarding email. And there's some negative reaction. One of the things that government has to learn is how to sunset services. And it can be unpopular, and figure out that right balance. Sometimes you get the negative feedback and you realize that was a mistake. And some things have to be sunset, other things, email is a disastrous broken protocol from the 1970s, except it still works better than all the alternatives. So I agree with you in principle, but I think the reality is going to be a lumpy landscape.
Oh yeah, I think doing digital is a lot more about implementation than actually doing the tech itself. I don't think we have that much services that use cutting-edge technology anywhere in government across the world. Okay, so thank you very much. Once again, it was Eglė from Lithuania, Ondřej from Czech Republic, Luukas from Estonia, Ossian from Ireland, and me, Janusz from Poland. Thank you very much.